The Emperor's New Clothes by Hans Christian Andersen. Once upon a time, in a grand kingdom, there lived an emperor who loved clothes more than anything else. He spent all his money on being finely dressed. He cared nothing about his soldiers, the theatre, or even driving in the woods, except for the opportunities it gave him to show off his new clothes. He had a coat for every hour of the day, and his greatest pleasure was to parade about in his beautiful outfits. One day, two cunning swindlers arrived in the city. They claimed to be weavers and declared they could make the most magnificent fabrics imaginable. Not only were their colors and patterns uncommonly fine, but the clothes made from this cloth had the special property of being invisible to any man who was unfit for his office or unpardonably stupid. Those must indeed be splendid clothes, thought the emperor. If I had such a suit, I might at once find out what men in my realm are unfit for their office, and also be able to distinguish the wise from the foolish. This stuff must be woven for me immediately. And he gave large sums of money to the swindlers to set them to work at once. They set up 2 looms and pretended to weave, though there was nothing on the looms. They demanded the finest silk and the purest gold thread, all of which they put into their own knapsacks while they worked at the empty looms far into the night. I should like to know how the weavers are getting on with my cloth, thought the emperor, but he felt rather uneasy when he remembered that those who were unfit for their office would not be able to see the fabric. Personally, he believed he had nothing to fear, yet he thought it advisable to send somebody else first to see how matters stood. Everybody in the city had heard of the wonderful property the cloth was to possess, and all were anxious to see how stupid their neighbors were. I will send my honest old minister to the weavers, thought the emperor. He can judge best how the cloth looks, for he is a sensible man, and no one can be better qualified for his office than he is. So the honest old minister went into the room where the 2 swindlers sat, working at the empty looms. Heaven preserve us, thought the old minister, opening his eyes very wide. I cannot see anything at all. But he did not say so. Both swindlers begged him to be so good as to come nearer, and asked him if he did not admire the exquisite pattern and the beautiful colors, pointing to the empty looms. The poor old minister tried his very best, but he could see nothing, for there was nothing to see. Heaven have mercy, he thought. Can it be that I am a fool? I would never have guessed it, and not a soul must know. Can it be that I am unfit for my office? No, no. I cannot say that I was unable to see the cloth. Well, sir, what do you think of it? Asked one of the swindlers. Oh, it is charming, quite enchanting, replied the old minister, looking at the loom through his spectacles. Such a pattern! What colors! I will certainly tell the emperor how delighted I am with it. We are pleased to hear that, said the 2 weavers, and they described to him the colors and explained the curious pattern. The old minister listened attentively, that he might relate to the emperor what they said, and so he did. The swindlers now asked for more money, silk, and gold, which they required for weaving. They kept everything for themselves, and continued to work with as much apparent diligence as before at their empty looms. Soon after, the emperor sent another honest statesman to see how the work was progressing, and how soon it would be ready. The same thing happened to him as to the minister. He looked and looked, but saw nothing, as there was nothing to be seen. "Is not that a beautiful piece of cloth?" asked the two swindlers, showing and explaining the magnificent pattern, which, however, did not exist. "I am not stupid," thought the man. "It must be that I am unfit for my office. That is very strange. However, no one shall know anything about it." And he praised the cloth, which he did not see, and declared that he was delighted with both colors and patterns. "To the emperor," he said on his return, "it is beyond comparison." The emperor now thought he would like to see the splendid cloth himself while it was still on the loom. With a number of his courtiers, including the two honest men who had already admired the cloth, he went to the crafty impostors, who were working as hard as ever at the empty looms. "Is it not magnificent?" said the two old statesmen, who had been there before. "Your Majesty must admire the colors and the pattern." And they pointed to the empty looms, for they imagined the others could see the cloth. "What is this?" thought the emperor. "I can see nothing. This is terrible. Am I a fool? Am I unfit to be emperor?" But aloud he said, "Oh, the cloth is beautiful. It has my highest approval." The courtiers who were with him gazed and gazed, one after another, but could not see anything more than the others. Nevertheless, they said, "Like the emperor, it is very beautiful." They advised him to wear clothes made of this magnificent cloth, especially for the great procession he was soon to lead. The whole city talked of the splendid cloth, and at last the emperor awarded the swindlers the title of imperial court weavers. The swindlers stayed up the entire night before the procession and had 16 candles burning, so that everyone might see how anxious they were to finish the emperor's new suit. They pretended to take the cloth off the looms, cut it in the air with large scissors, and sewed it with needles without any thread. At last, they said, "The emperor's new clothes are ready." The emperor came himself with his noblest cavaliers, and the swindlers each raised an arm, as if they were holding something, and said, "These are the trousers, this is the coat, and here is the mantle," naming each garment. All of them are as light as a spider's web. One might think he had nothing at all on when dressed in them. That is the beauty of it. "Yes," said all the courtiers, but they could see nothing, for there was nothing to be seen. "Does it please your Majesty now to graciously undress?" said the swindlers, "that we may assist your Majesty in putting on the new suit before the large looking-glass." The emperor undressed, and the swindlers pretended to put his new suit upon him, one piece after another. They drew him around the waist and seemed to fasten something. That was his train. The emperor turned round and round before the looking-glass. "How splendid His Majesty looks in his new clothes, and how well they fit!" Everyone cried out. "What a design! What colors! These are indeed royal robes." "The canopy which is to be borne over your Majesty in the procession is waiting," announced the chief master of ceremonies. "I am ready," replied the emperor. "Does not my suit fit me marvelously?" Then he turned once more to the looking-glass to see if he was really finely dressed. The chamberlains, who were to carry His Majesty's train, felt about on the ground as if they were lifting it up, and pretended to be carrying something, for they would by no means let it be known that they could not see anything. So the emperor went in procession under the splendid canopy, and everyone in the streets and the windows cried out, "Oh, how beautiful are the emperor's new clothes! What a magnificent train there is to the mantle, and how gracefully the scarf hangs!" No one would let it be perceived that they could see nothing, for that would prove them unfit for their positions, or that they were simpletons. Never were the emperor's clothes more admired. "But he has nothing on at all," said a little child at last. "Good heavens! Listen to the voice of an innocent child," exclaimed the father, and one whispered to another what the child had said. "He has nothing on. Child says he has nothing on." "But he has nothing on at all," cried at last the whole people. That touched the emperor, for it seemed to him that they were right. But he thought to himself, "Now I must bear up to the end." And the chamberlains walked with still greater dignity, as if they carried the train which did not exist. If you enjoyed this story, when you awaken, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more magical tales. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an adventure. Sweet dreams, and see you in the next story.